Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to go over a new event in this ongoing saga of streaming wars between the movie theaters and the movie studios. And this time it's actually some studio-on-studio action, so this is actually kind of a bit of a change, because usually it's just the theaters bad-mouthing the studios. But last week, Warner Brothers unveiled their plan to move all 17 of their major theatrical releases for 2021 and have a dual release schedule where they would release on streaming the same day they would be in theaters. Now, obviously, theater companies like AMC were not happy about this. They voiced their disdain for it, as they have in previous times, as well as the National Association of Theater Owners, or NATO, and a few other factions as well. I think Regal also chimed in on that. But now we have Legendary Pictures, which is actually a major Hollywood studio, coming in and saying that they are prepared to press a lawsuit against Warner Brothers over sending specifically two films that they also co-produced and majority funded, which are Godzilla vs. Kong and Denis Villeneuve's Dune. Which are both slated to be major theatrical releases next year. Godzilla is set to I believe it is set as a date as the midsummer. I think it's supposed to be coming out in June. And Dune is actually, I think, also a summer release. So we're going to have this. So right now, Legendary is actually saying that they may press charges against this because they were not given a heads up in regards to these films going directly to streaming, in addition to also opening immediately in theaters. Apparently, Warner Brothers went ahead and did that without their okay, which is a big no-no. But let's go into the actual quote. Now, this comes from Deadline's Mike Fleming Jr. So again, this is not coming directly from the studios, but you can take this as basically a rumor with a little bit of a grain of salt, because it may just be something that they work out behind the scenes and we never hear about again, but it is interesting to talk about. Now, the quote from Fleming is as follows. I'm hearing that Legendary Entertainment either has or will send legal letters to Warner Bros. As soon as today, challenging the decision to put the Denis Villeneuve-directed Dune into the HBO Max deal, and maybe Godzilla vs. Kong as well. On the latter, Legendary reportedly had Netflix ready to pull the film from Warner Bros. For around $250 million before Warner Media blocked it. Sources said Legendary had no advance notice before last week's announcement that both Dune and Godzilla vs. Kong were part of the HBO Max plan. So that's the other thing, too, is that Legendary was planning on selling some of the streaming rights, which I'm assuming they do own, for Godzilla vs. Kong to Netflix for a large sum of money. And apparently Warner Brothers has taken that upon themselves to simply push it right towards HBO Max, like all of their other properties seem to be going. So that's a lot. That's kind of a lot of information to digest from like a legal standpoint, because you'd have to go through a lot of hoops in order to get this thing. But they can bog this thing down for a while if they really want to. Legendary Pictures, I mean, because again, they put forth about 75% of the budget for Godzilla vs. Kong and for Dune, and a similar amount for Godzilla vs. Kong. So they are the majority stakeholders in this from a monetary value, not Warner Brothers. So this is some very bad mismanagement on Warner Brothers' part to go ahead and do this to Legendary, because that's the other thing, is Legendary is not a pushover. Legendary is a major Hollywood studio. I would say that, they're not as high up, I would say, as Warner Brothers, but they're not far behind either. So they're not somebody that I think Warner Brothers can just push to the side. They're not some little studio that they could say, fuck you, we're going to do what we want. Especially because they put up a majority of the budget for both of these films. Now, as for the remainder of Warner Brothers' slate, the other 15 films that are set to go to HBO Max same day as theaters, those films are still slated to continue on. I think Wonder Woman 1984 might be the first out of that. But all of those films are still set to dual premiere on HBO Max and in theaters at the same time. But like I said, this is kind of an interesting little development, because as so far we've seen kind of studios be kind of just either on their own side, on the side of their studio, kind of like Universal did before they signed that deal with AMC. and Disney, where Disney basically just said "fuck you," which I side with the studios on this scenario because I think that the theaters kind of burned their own bridges on it, and I've been over that in previous videos before. If you'd like to go watch those, but in this case, this seems like kind of a legal thing where Warner Brothers just royally fucked up in doing this and just making this announcement without giving anybody apparently a heads up on it from the other co-production companies. So that's really more of the bigger problem here is just the mismanagement at the head of Warner Brothers, which is nothing new, to be honest. There's been a fair amount of mismanagement at Warner Brothers. We saw it with the production on Justice League, which is being rectified now. I think they had kind of a changing of the guard not long ago because I think the Warner Brothers went through some kind of a merger. A little bit after or a little bit before Disney and Fox completed their buyout. So I think that there's some new No, I'm thinking of Sony. I believe I'm thinking of Sony, not Warner Brothers. But actually, no, it is Warner Brothers. But the Warner Brothers kind of there's a lot of kinks being worked out there. I think at the top levels of that company, and I think it's starting to show in some of the projects that they're doing. But I like the direction that Warner Brothers is going in the sense that they agreed on the Snyder Cut. They brought him back. They're actually going to do that proper. They're promoting HBO Max. The only thing that I don't like about them is a lot of the stuff they're pushing with the DCEU outside of the Snyder Cut. I like the idea of bringing in Shazam 2 and doing that proper. The whole hard on they have for Harley Quinn is kind of weird to me. It's like, look, I mean, I get it. She's a fun character to build something around. I don't say that in a bad way. I think she's a good character to build something around. But at the same time, I don't think they're using her in any kind of word. And then on top of that, they're giving Margot Robbie a lot of creative control over that character, which I don't necessarily think should be the case. I think you should have writers and directors should have more control over that at this point. But regardless of all that stuff, going back to the legal stuff involving Dune and Godzilla vs. Kong, the other thing is we really have no idea what the slate is going to look like in 2021. Are these things going to get shuffled? Are they going to get pushed back more? Are theaters going to recover enough where studios feel like they have the ability to release films in them and actually gain somewhat of a profit? Again, unlike Tenet, which only, I think, crossed the 350 million mark worldwide, which is abysmal for a movie like that. It probably lost a very good amount of money. So you have that. Then in addition to that, you have the absence of the blockbuster films with theaters, where theaters are now struggling because of the whole coronavirus pandemic thing. There's a lot to go through with that. And there's going to be a lot to go through in the future to see where these things kind of shake out. But Legendary has ground here for legal action, specifically with these two films, because they've put forward that much of a budget and because they are co-producing this with Warner Brothers. Now, it seems like Legendary had the rights to the streaming for Godzilla vs. Kong, or they have the rights for it, so that was a very big misstep by Warner Brothers. Their legal department should have caught that one. But regardless of that, I think that kind of covers most of the information I'm going to go through in this. But as usual, I want to know what you think. Do you think it's a good idea for Warner Brothers to be sending their entire slate to streaming same day as theaters? Do you think it's financially a bad idea? Do you think that do you agree that they should be bullshit at Warner Brothers for just sending Dune and Godzilla vs. Kong right to HBO Max without their consent, or even notifying them of it? As usual, put your thoughts in the comments below. I like to read them. Hit the bell for notifications, hit the like button, subscribe, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?